Okay. And no. And 1 second, Kevin, because you wanted to talk about Kevin O'Leary, you wanted to talk about Kamala Harris being mediocre. Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. and what's the other one? Eric are the definition of what mediocre is. And what I'm saying is that now they are reaping the benefits of their father.
In a different direction?
Please.
Just for a moment. Please.
No, guide me. I'm blind.
What does this have to do with Middle East policy? Please, just a moment.
Oh, no, please.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes,
what does this have to do with the fact that he is trying to create a circle of friendship with the fastest growing geographies in the world before China does?
But wait a second.
Wait, let me finish.
Well,
on this trip, I just want to introduce an idea. This has nothing to do with...
In today's video, Bakari Sellers destroys Kevin O'Leary on NewsNight with Abby Phillip in a heated debate that exposes the deep ethical cracks in Donald Trump's foreign business dealings. As the discussion unfolds, Sellers calls out O'Leary's attempts to defend Trump's billion-dollar Middle Eastern investments, questioning how the former president can negotiate diplomatic deals with the same nations funding his family's luxury projects. The exchange gets fiery as Bakari presses him on conflicts of interest, the Emoluments Clause, and whether this blurs the line between diplomacy and self-enrichment. O'Leary tries to pivot, but Sellers' pointed question leaves him completely cornered and speechless. So let's dive in and watch how Bakari Sellers shuts down Kevin O'Leary on NewsNight with Abby Phillip.
According to our reporting, some of the deals going on right now: Saudi Arabia, 2 luxury towers, Live Golf Partnership, Qatar, Golf Club and Villas, UAE, luxury hotel, cryptocurrency deal, Oman, resort and golf project.
And the dinner.
I mean this sincerely. I mean, does it bother you that this is happening at the same time that these nation states are also trying to curry favor with Trump himself?
Well, it doesn't really bother me that people are in business for years, then their dad gets elected president, and then they continue to go on in business. We knew we were electing a businessman president. We knew his family was in business. So I think the American people have full visibility into that. Number 2.
But we're talking about new deals here, not existing deals.
Well, they're business people. They're cutting deals all the time.
You're okay with them cutting deals while Trump is sitting in the White House when he's going over there
countries that
to
are
negotiate
actively doing negotiations with
We're negotiating with every country in the world every day. Well, let me answer your question, the specific criticism about Hunter Biden. All the things you just mentioned, towers, golf courses, hotels, resorts, tangible things.
Cryptocurrency and meme coins, Scott, don't forget those.
You do something, money exchanges hands, a service is provided, a tower is built, a golf course is developed. Can you name one tangible service other than finger paintings that Hunter Biden provided for any money to change hands?
I do think that is a fair critique of the Hunter Biden of it all. But you're not addressing the fact that in all of these countries, in order to do any of these things, they have to go to the political leadership of the countries to get them approved. That doesn't address that at all.
Abby, at 10:07, Scott was telling me how the biggest modern day conspiracy we've had in terms of a president scandal was Joe Biden and his health. And he said that, and then he criticized Chuck Schumer, right, about the fact that he didn't have any character because he didn't stand up to it. But at 10:27, 10:28, the argument has changed, because what we do know is that there is a $400 million jet from Qatar. What we do know is that there is a $5.5 million golf course in Qatar. What we do know is what Syria is offering Donald Trump. And what we do know is that the things that are happening in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, buying meme coins that mean absolutely.
This debate between Abby Phillip and Bakari Sellers on the left and Scott Jennings on the right really highlights one of the biggest double standards in modern politics. What's interesting here isn't just the clash of opinions, it's how Sellers and Phillip are pointing out something that's been happening in plain sight for years: the merging of business and politics under Trump's watch. And honestly, they're right to be concerned. When you have Trump's family negotiating multi-million-dollar real estate projects with Middle Eastern nations, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Oman, While those same countries are seeking US policy favor, that's not just business as usual. That's potential influence peddling on a global scale. Let's be real. And again, it's not normal for foreign governments to pour money into projects directly connected to a sitting or former US president. There's a reason the Emoluments Clause exists, to prevent presidents from receiving money or gifts from foreign powers. This isn't about whether Trump's family are business people. It's about the conflict that arises when personal profit intersects with public office. And while Scott Jennings tries to deflect by comparing this to Hunter Biden, the comparison falls apart immediately. Hunter wasn't making government decisions. Trump literally had the power to shape US foreign policy, while his family was making deals with the very countries his administration was negotiating with. That's not transparency. That's textbook kleptocracy. Bakari Sellers hits the nail on the head, but for the fact that Trump was president, none of these deals would have happened. And that's exactly the point. It's not just unethical, it's a threat to the integrity of American democracy.
Nothing. The fact is, and I would love for Scott to be able to answer this question, but for the fact, and that's when I didn't really do well in law school, but I remember but for the fact Donald Trump is president of the United States, none of this would happen. And so that is what you call a kleptocracy. And so when you have children, and no, and 1 second, Kevin, because you wanted to talk about you wanted to talk about Kamala Harris being mediocre. Donald Trump Jr. and what's the other one? Eric are the definition of what mediocre is. And what I'm saying is that now they are reaping the benefits of their father.
In a different direction?
Please.
Just for a moment. Please.
No, guide me. I'm blind.
What does this have to do with Middle East policy? Please, just a moment.
Oh, no, please.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes,
what does this have to do with the fact that he is trying to create a circle of friendship with the fastest growing geographies in the world before China does?
But wait a second.
Wait, let me finish.
Well,
on this trip, I just want to introduce an idea. This has nothing to do with policy.
Go ahead. I'm locked in.
What does this have to do with policy?
The one thing that I've heard for the last 4 or 5 years is anytime anyone had any criticism of the United States foreign policy in Gaza or whatever, is that these people would be being paid by a resource-rich government that propped up and funded terrorism, which was over in Qatar. Every single time. They were buying influence in Ivy League schools. They were buying influence in social media. They were buying influence everywhere. So anytime you saw somebody
you
anytime somebody was thought to have any dealings with the Qataris, they were thought as being intellectually and morally tainted. Except the President of the United States, who takes a $400 million plane from them, literally is refurbishing it to be Air Force.
Who cares about the plane? What does that have to do with the fact?
Because it's
wait a second.
You know what?
I don't get it. Why focus on something that is irrelevant to the policy?
It's not irrelevant.
This exchange between Bakari Sellers and Van Lathan versus Kevin O'Leary is one of those moments where you can see the entire concept of accountability being twisted into a talking point. Sellers and Lathan are absolutely right to challenge the idea that taking multi-million-dollar gifts or deals from foreign nations like Qatar and Saudi Arabia somehow has nothing to do with US foreign policy. Kevin O'Leary keeps trying to make it sound like these shady arrangements are just smart geopolitical moves, that Trump's forming a circle of friendship before China does. But come on, let's call it what it is, a conflict of interest hiding behind economic spin. When the President of the United States accepts a $400 million plane from Qatar, a nation with a documented history of funding groups tied to extremism, that's not irrelevant. That's a flashing red flag. The US Constitution's Emoluments Clause exists precisely to prevent this, to stop presidents from receiving money, gifts, or favors from foreign governments. emoluments. Sellers brings that up perfectly when he says the Constitution would like to have a word, because it's not about whether Trump is making smart deals. It's about whether those deals are legal and ethical in the first place. And Van Lathan adds an even deeper layer, reminding everyone how conservatives used to slam anyone with even distant ties to Qatar as being morally compromised. But now suddenly it's okay because it's Trump. That hypocrisy is exactly what makes this debate so powerful. Kevin O'Leary's deflection about Trump derangement syndrome is just a distraction. The real issue is that Trump and his circle blurred the line between diplomacy and personal enrichment, and the danger of that is far bigger than any single trip or plane.
It's completely irrelevant.
How is it irrelevant?
Kevin,
Would you rather have the Chinese there?
the
Would
United
you rather have them there?
Kevin, the United States Constitution
irrelevant.
would like to have a word. The United States
There you go.
Constitution would like to have a word. That's why people care,
Yeah,
right?
people care
because
because
the
of the
reason that that's in the Constitution is to prevent the President of the United States from accepting things
What's
that
the
are
goal
being
of the trip?
that are being perceived
What's the
as
goal-
as bribes.
What is the national
The
interest
goal of the
this
trip is not to get a giant gift that he can say belongs to him as president, but then he takes with him when he leaves the office.
Abby, you have
That's
to
not-
distance yourself from Trump derangement syndrome. It's irrelevant to policy. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
What matters
Kevin,
is, why are all these AI guys
Have
on this
you
trip?
heard of the Emoluments Clause?
Wait. Why do you have all the leaders?
Kevin, no, seriously, it's a serious question. Have you heard of the Emoluments Clause? Do you understand that that is in the Constitution?
He doesn't. No.
And do
listen,
you understand that
I
even if
don't-
you
I
think
don't-
that maybe it might
debating
be okay,
how many fairies
it's
dance
still,
on a pin
it's
does
still
not do
legally
policy.
incredibly dubious.
So let me ask you a
realize
question.
That, right?
So can
Hold
I?
on,
So
but
I'm sorry.
hold on.
I'm
Let
hearing
me
you.
just, but Kevin doesn't operate by the same morals and ethics and values that we're
I'm
talking
above
about.
that. I focus
because
on
you're
policy.
so rich, you get to be above it. That's
It's
so
nothing to
lovely.
do with wealth. It's policy, policy.
No, but here's the point about the policy. Let me make one point, fellas. Whew. If someone is willing to take a $400 million plane from a government, that the kinds of things that Van was talking about, people have said, even Ted Cruz had some issues with this. What else is he willing to do? And Scott, you're talking about these tangible things. Meme coins
they're business people.
Meme coins are not tangible. They're nothing. Cryptocurrency is nothing. There is a bidding war going on right now with governments and countries and companies. We have no idea what their alignments are to buy enough meme coins to buy access to our
There was
purpose-
a story tonight in the New York Times about a very mysterious company that bought hundreds of millions of dollars
With
worth of
links to
Trump
China. I
mean,
meme
think-
coins with links
I mean,
to
I think-
China.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, I mean,
Well,
there are
go
some
ahead.
real questions and concerns about the money that is being made here.
The emoluments thing you raised, I mean, it's a good question. It's a legitimate debating point, and I assume it'll ultimately be tested in court. The administration has a point of view on it. I assume they're going to be sued, or I don't know how you would get it into court on this, but my assumption is ultimately the Supreme Court is the only people who can give us some arbitration on this. So I assume that's where it's headed.
This moment between Abby Phillip and Karen Finney versus Kevin O'Leary and Scott Jennings perfectly captures how the debate over Trump's business entanglements isn't just about politics, it's about the rule of law. Abby and Karen are absolutely right to push back against O'Leary's constant dismissal of legitimate constitutional concerns as Trump derangement syndrome. That line has become a catch-all excuse to avoid accountability. The Emoluments Clause isn't some obscure theoretical point. It's literally in the US Constitution to stop presidents from accepting foreign gifts or payments that could influence their decisions. What's wild here is how Kevin O'Leary, a self-proclaimed business genius, acts like corruption suddenly becomes irrelevant when it's policy. But if a president accepts a $400 million jet from Qatar or gets meme coins purchased by companies with ties to China, that is policy. It directly affects US diplomacy, trade, and even national security. Abby calling that out is spot on because once you normalize taking money or gifts from foreign entities, you open the door to influence, manipulation, and soft bribery on a global scale. Karen Finney also hits a nerve when she says O'Leary doesn't operate by the same morals or ethics. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't make someone's opinion more valid. If anything, it can distort how they view power. And when Scott Jennings admits that the emoluments issue will probably end up in the Supreme Court, that's basically a quiet acknowledgement that this isn't about derangement at all. It's about legality. In short, Abby and Karen aren't overreacting. They're defending the basic principle that no president is above the Constitution, no matter how rich, powerful, or policy-driven he claims to be. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing, and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.